With every headline, every idiotic utterance from so many politicians in South Africa, their conduct only amplifies and confirms the concerns that President Donald Trump aired about South Africa in his executive order on the 7th of February 2025. Folks, they're only making Trump's case stronger, day by day, confirming the racial discrimination which he noted. And I share headlines from the 27th of February, all of which are inflammatory for the most part in major outlets in South Africa. From the Times Live, AfriForum sowing divisions. Ramaphosa responds to AfriForum and Solidarity's visit to Washington, D.C. News 24 says they are sowing divisions. Ramaphosa slams AfriForum and Solidarity's Washington visit. And the Independent Line says President Cyril Ramaphosa condemns AfriForum's White House appeal over land rights. Land rights. And Ramaphosa was quoted as saying, in questions to journalists, he responded, he said, "You are just sowing divisions because then a number of South Africans start looking at others negatively. And I don't think that is the right way to handle our problems." Well, first off, Ramaphosa didn't condemn. He didn't slam. He simply made his feelings known, and they were rather mild, his comments actually. So Ramaphosa says the way they're handling things, people are reacting negatively. Well, that's not the fault of AfriForum and Solidarity. That's the fault of bigots and racists who can't see the forest through the trees. Now, this prompts the question, what were the ANC doing lobbying London, Amsterdam, and Washington in the 1980s, looking for sanctions? And it worked. The Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act of 1986 is a law enacted by the Congress, overriding President Reagan's veto. In the 1980s, the ANC went abroad to Berlin, Moscow, Beijing, Lusaka, where they had a base of operations, Dar es Salaam with another one, looking for succor, refuge, training, and calling for divestment and sanctions on South Africa, and so on. Why was it okay for the ANC to do it when they were being racially oppressed? It's not okay for a group that's being racially oppressed today to seek help from abroad. Hypocrisy? Perhaps. Comments on social media are especially vile, racist, and all too often threatening violence against minorities. Additionally, we see sharp increases in hateful interactions towards white South Africans in Gauteng province, especially since the ANC and legacy media started misleading the public about Trump's executive order. Now, folks, politicians are a big part of the problem, stoking racial discord, misrepresenting events to get attention, with no regard to the damage their lies and fabrications do to social order or public safety. In response to a post from colleague Creel on X regarding his visit to the United States, Action SA's party leader Herman Mashaba said the following: "I get shivers in my spine when I think and imagine what would have happened to any South African who did something like that pre-1994. He's upset that AfriForum and Solidarity are in the U.S. asking for meetings. Why? The ANC is so rubbish the diplomatic relationship with the United States that they can't even get an Uber, let alone a meeting in D.C. Someone needs to stand up for South Africans. And you get shivers down your spine if someone went to a foreign power and lobbied for them to sanction the leaders of your country? That's exactly what the ANC did in the 1980s. Did you get shivers then, Herman, when you were making your millions in the apartheid economy?" Former foreign minister and permanent member of parliament, who's finally out, Naledi Pandor, according to Times Live headline, urges swift diplomacy amid the South Africa Trump debacle. It's a debacle, but not because of Trump. For some time, AfriForum has attempted to present itself as a civil society group, but it's become clear their intentions are racial in character. There's nothing civil about it. It is neither inclusive nor respectful of our Constitution. When institutions reveal their true nature, you know how to respond to them. Well, that's a threat. That was a clear threat. She just leveled a threat at AfriForum. And she claims that AfriForum's intentions are racial. Hello, ANC pot. This is Kettle. You are black. Talk about intentional racial. Good gosh. That describes the ANC to a T. Why do you have 140 plus race-based laws in South Africa? What's that all about? Now, folks, this is the same Naledi Pandor who is chummy with state terror sponsor Iran and who made congratulatory telephone call to the Hamas terrorists for the successful unprovoked invasion of Israel, where they murdered 1,200 innocent civilians, raped women, and slaughtered infants. And she called them to tell them what a fine job they did. I think the government has reacted well. Knee-jerk responses can create uncomfortable situations, so calmness is important. But there is a need to move more swiftly, particularly regarding the diplomatic actions President Ramaphosa outlined in his State of the Nation address. Reacted well. You're saying the South African government has reacted well. What planet are you living on, Naledi Pandor? Planet Reebok? Did you miss the State of the Nation address where Ramaphosa insulted America? His first sentence, "We will not be bullied." Or did you miss the gem from Ronnie Lamola being interviewed by Deutsche Welle? Trump's executive orders motivated by racism. You've handled it well? What about the EFF calling America racist and lying about African history, blaming America for Renamo? That was a South African creation, not us. I believe the envoy should already be engaging officials in the U.S. and reaching out to allies beyond government However, if we overreact, we risk playing into someone else's game, which doesn't help. Now, lady, no one wants to talk to the ANC. They are pariahs in D.C. She said, I generally avoid negative commentary on heads of state, but I believe he is being misinformed by our own South Africans. They, AfriForum, have a duty to correct the misrepresentations they've spread about our country. Nope. Now, Lady Pandor, your star is dimming. You are gaslighting, as you always do. Solidarity AfriForum, free to take up Trump's offer, says Minister Ntshavheni in the Times Live. Kumbutsu Ntshavheni said the group was continuing to peddle lies about South Africa, saying if they don't like the efforts of government, why don't they take President Trump up on his offer to resettle in the U.S.? Well, Ntshavheni, the lies are coming from your party, claiming that there's no racial discrimination in South Africa. That's a flat-out lie. You have 100 plus laws that are intentionally racially discriminatory. How can you deny that? She added that not all white people supported the actions of AfriForum Solidarity. True. Who claimed they did? Most black folks don't support the ANC, a party that barely managed 8.5 million votes out of 42 million eligible voters in the last election. What does that tell you? A wildly unpopular party. From the first administration to the seventh, government acted within the provisions of our Constitution, which is globally rated as one of the best. We also appreciate the support that has come through from different sectors, the AU, the EU, to indicate that the lies being peddled about South Africa are not true, and South Africa's responsibility to correct the injustice of the past so we can build a united, prosperous, and equal South Africa. Well, folks, it's hard to take her seriously when she admits a country that has provided the most assistance, the most financial aid, the most investment, was long the largest trading partner of South Africa, now number 2, in order to mention the African Union and the EU, which gives South Africa to little to nothing. So she promotes them, and she insults the United States, South Africa's biggest donor and contributor. Righting past wrongs does not justify racial discrimination. Your race hustling free pass has expired in 2025. Sorry about that, Ntshavheni, but your race card is no longer valid. Now, folks, amidst the nonsense of intentionally ignorant race hustling liars in South African politics, we do see a few adults left in the room. So let me mention 2. Racism shall never find a place under my watch, says Gabe McKenzie, defending the Cuba Book Fair delegation in the Independent Online. He said, I took one look at that list and told the acting director general, chief of staff, and my spokesperson that I want to see more inclusion. I want it clear that it should have colored and white people also. I will never be ashamed of my instruction. And when he removed the caterers, they howled and called him a racist and corrupt. Racism shall never find a place under my watch. Lastly, to all these politically connected writers that are complaining, your time of giving instructions to my department is over. Now, that's good to hear. It's even better to see that it was put in action, as Gabe McKenzie did. Headlines in the Times Live says, Zulu King calls for racial integration to promote social cohesion in KwaZulu-Natal. As the king of every person in the province, I'm concerned government programs with the monarch exclude people who are not Zulus. I know this is not intentional, but those other races also distance themselves. Wow. So I think we need more South Africans who generally care about all Safas, not just their favorite group. The problem has surfaced mainly during ceremonies where only Zulu were present at the events. The king said, I'm referring to the Indians, whites, the Khoi, and coloreds. We need to address this problem if we are serious about social cohesion, adding it was important for government to cater to everyone. Well done, King Mizuzulu Kwazwelitini. Well done, as long as the action falls through on the words that you've issued there. And that's 2 adults in the room, as all the other politicians seem, or many of them seem intent on ratcheting up racial tension and social discord with lies misrepresenting what AfriForum is doing in America, which is no different. Actually, it's a lot less provocative than what the ANC did back in the 1980s when they felt racially oppressed. The government of South Africa is not inclusive. The government of South Africa does not include public debate, because if they did, then he would never have signed the Bella Bill or the expropriation without compensation, where hundreds of thousands of comments from the public, over 90% in both cases, rubbished them and demanded that they not become the law. And he simply ran roughshod over that and ignored it and signed it into law. So Ntshavheni can make all the fairy tale lies she wants about the Constitution being so wonderful and high rated and that it's so inclusive and you run a democracy. It's not a democracy. It's run by a cabal of politicians who are elected by a system in which people don't vote for candidates, but for political parties. It's hardly democratic. What say you, South Africa? Are you seeing ratcheted up racial tensions as a consequence of politicians and the media distorting the story and intentionally provoking racial discord and hatred? It's what I'm seeing from abroad. Maybe I've got the wrong view. What say you? Cheers.